What's up? I'm Jordan Astra, and welcome to the Time Will Tell listening party here at 412 Studios in Richmond East. Very excited because after 3 years and three projects later, we are bringing this trilogy to a conclusion. So, very excited to be here.
So you talk about a trilogy works. Take me back to 2013 when you first released Man from East. What was happening at that time in your life, and what did the project mean for you personally and musically?
So, back in 2023, I had released my first project that is a part of this trilogy series called Man from East. 7 songs on the EP. Really special because the whole year before that, I was actually recording and writing and just being inspired by Toronto as a city in general. It was so incredible to be actually back in the city. I'm a Mississauga boy myself, and then spent the last 9 years before moving to Toronto in Australia, where I actually started releasing music as an artist and realizing that this could be a real thing, a real career. So before you know it, Hannah and I, my wife, we picked up and we flew back here, and we've been in Toronto ever since. And Man from East is like the first project that tells that story and that journey. On the cover is actually my dad, and he shared a really similar story. One of 6 boys from Indonesia, and he was the only one who moved to Canada while the rest of the brothers stayed in Indonesia, and he started this whole life. And I just felt like me going from Mississauga to Australia and then back to Toronto really felt like, on my own, a very similar journey, just being your own person, being your own man. And so shout outs to my dad. Man from East was the project that came from that.
So the second part of your trilogy is called Far Deeper, and that arrived in 2024. It felt like a continuation, but also an evolution. What did that chapter add to your story?
So when I put out Man from East, I realized that I had this mission that it was almost like a calling to me to just do a trilogy, set a goal for the next 3 years to release a project every year, to really give myself the opportunity, to stand my ground in this city as an artist and as a creator, to really set that goal and that mission. So Man from East was the first project that comes out. The next year, Far Deeper was a project that kind of started off as songs that didn't quite fit on Man from East, but I knew I had to put out. And so I kind of had already a leg up. I was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico after releasing Man from East when I started writing again, almost immediately after. So the project comes out in November. A couple weeks later, I'm on holidays, and then Far Deeper began. And this for me was the sentiment was if Man from East was the journey, then Far Deeper was going to be the kind of like the leap of faith, really just to make a mark, demonstrate my signature sound, showcase the confidence that I have as an artist and as a producer. And halfway through the year in 2024, when I started releasing all these singles from Far Deeper, that's when I met my label, Mind of a Genius, and we started working together. So it really felt like a great step in the right direction.
Amazing. So now in 2025, Time Will Tell is about to be released to the world. You're closing the trilogy. What does it feel like to bring this 3 year journey to this full circle or a close?
So we fast forward after 2024, Far Deeper comes out, and then again, I knew in my mind that I already had another project waiting, which this third installment of this trilogy was actually originally called Made Man, but as a non-Italian, I just felt like that wasn't going to be the play for this. So, I sat on a couple of ideas and names and what would resonate with me, and Time Will Tell was kind of the reflective moment or sentiment that I had for this third project for a lot of reasons, but mainly the biggest reason for me was because of the fact that, if I set out this goal to release 3 projects in 3 years, to create a trilogy, only time will tell what exactly will happen. But the goal as an artist, in my opinion, is to release, timeless music. And this third installment being Time Will Tell is that whether people love it today or tomorrow or in 15 years, I think this project really will stand the test of time. And this is my proudest body of work of the 3 because I've just grown so much. I think Toronto has done such amazing things for me as an artist with my confidence and my abilities to create, and especially those around me who have really lifted me up to be the best that I am. Yeah, I'm really proud of this project, and I think it really represents what I stand for. So here we are.
So, if someone were to listen to the trilogy start to finish, what story would they walk away with? What would you want them to walk away with?
If you're going to listen to the trilogy from start to finish, Man from East into Far Deeper and then into Time Will Tell, I want you to walk away feeling that you have a better understanding of who I am as an artist. A lot of what I write about is stories that directly affect me or from family and friends and their personal moments that, I gain experience from. I feel like Man from East was an introduction into this up-tempo R&B meets funk. Still kind of finding my way with that one. And then Far Deeper was a real step into the confidence of those two genres. And I think with Time Will Tell, it's going to feel a lot more like soul music meets pop and really just cementing myself as a big pop star here for Canada. And I think ultimately, though, when you listen to the three bodies of work together, you're going to feel that cohesion of what it means for this genre and how I'm trying to lead that genre into new heights.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your style of music and how you feel like that's evolved and why did you land in the space that you have today?
Yeah, so my sound is really up-tempo R&B meets funk. Think, Anderson .Paak and Pharrell, even Dua Lipa. My branding kind of matches this retro futurism where, the 70s meets its contemporary looks. I just feel like the music that I create is a direct reflection of my own personality and energy. Like I'm a positive person. I'm a happy guy. I don't really write sad music, to be fair. Sad music's great, but I'm just a happy dude. So this is a true reflection of who I am as an artist and as a producer. I love music that makes you dance, and more importantly, when you come to my shows, like you leave feeling more electric than when you walked in, which I think is a huge thing for me. It's one thing to listen to an artist on a project, but it's another thing to go to their shows and feel even more connected to an artist. So my sound really is, yeah, I want you to listen to it, obviously, in for anywhere from like a poolside or to a speakeasy, but most importantly, I want to be filling out arenas, and I want you there with your friends.
Love it. So your background is Southeast Asian, Canadian, and you've had a lot of global influences in your life. How has this shaped your music, your lifestyle, and the way that you present yourself to the world?
So my dad's Indonesian. My mom comes from German and Swedish descent, and I think those two worlds are so contrasting in so many ways. And the beautiful thing about Canada is them meeting here is one of many Canadian stories of multiculturalism. And for me, that means there's so much more influence and inspiration in my music and my sound. Even from the way I dress or the way I present myself to being Canadian, I think is ultimately what I'm most proud of. And being Indonesian and Swedish and German is kind of like the icing on the cake in terms of uniqueness of my own identity. But I have been really looking into my cultural history and what it means to me to really bring that to the forefront of my music. My dad at 22 is on the cover of Man from East. Far Deeper was shot 100% by a Canadian team. And, now Time Will Tell is shot by my brother. So these three covers are just a progression of me letting my fans and the general public a little bit more into my life and my culture and what I represent.
Love it. Okay, the big why. What has this trilogy taught you about yourself, both Jordan Astra as the artist and Jordan Astra as a person?
Wow. So, this trilogy has taught me a lot of things. As a person, beyond the artistry, it's taught me that I am really fucking resilient and I'm very persistent. I'm a very driven human being. And I love the idea that I have this ability to cast a vision and then bring it to life. I think that's probably my greatest attribute, honestly, as a person. And I just really want to make, my people proud. I'm trying to book a villa with all my friends and family to go pull up and enjoy. And, I want to be that provider. And as an artist, I think it's really taught me that, up-tempo R&B and B and funk is my sound. I love to groove. I love groove in general. Soul music, jazz influence. That's my, it's in my DNA. It's in my genetics. I just love it. And, I think as an artist, I'll always be an artist. This is something that you don't just become one day. I think it's just something that you just feel in your bones. And so, over the last 3 years, this project has taught me that, yeah, man, you're an artist and this is the life you chose and the life has chosen you. So it is what it is.
So let's dial in on Time Will Tell for a moment. What do you hope listeners will carry with them when they hear it and ultimately when they reflect on the whole trilogy as a whole project?
When you listen to Time Will Tell, I want you to reflect on the journey that it takes you on. We start off with this beautiful choir to kick things off. We go into, one of my favorite records, Honey, upbeat, energetic, and it just takes you up from there. And then I really, have such a love for R&B and, soul music that we kind of the slower moments are just an homage to, R&B and soul music. And then by the end of it, I have this incredible collaboration with Yuna for this song called Safest Place. And you'll notice that in all the trilogies, they all end on a ballad. And for me, it's always been anytime I put out a body of work, has to feel like you're taking on a journey, something that does feel cyclical in its emotion and its feelings. And so, yeah, I think with the trilogy, I want you to enjoy it. I think it's a body of works that you can listen to in a lot of places. And I think that's I'm a man of the people, and I think that's just how I always wanted my music for people to feel. I want you to feel like you're included in what I do.
Okay, and finally, looking back on this 3 year journey, what's the one thing you want the world to understand about you and why you make music?
I think after this 3 year conclusion, I want people to understand that I'm here to stay. I am one of Canada's best artists and producers, and I love the fact that I get to do this. And I really want to represent what this country has to offer and who we are as people. And I want to hold it down for my Southeast Asians, and I want to hold it down for my Europeans. And, you know, it's just going to be an incredible ride. So thank you so much for joining me, and it's only going to go crazy.
Woo!
Amazing.
That was amazing, babe. Great.
All right.
Now you got to do that all again.
Kind of blacked out. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.